I'm going to start the tutorial with 3 plans, but I'm only going to use one plan, a 1968 Conde style plan, to do the tutorial with. First, the picture you see now is the 68 with the bridge that I'm going to use and the Rosette that I'll be using for this design. This is the Rosette, and this is the bridge that I'll be using, the practice bridge. Now, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to use this head design or one of my own head designs. I haven't decided yet. Now let's go to the 1959 pattern. You can see that this pattern has got different lengths of the fan braces that don't go all the way to the horizontal bar. This particular fan brace is shortened to drop the third string off to where it won't be so strident or high-pitched. It will actually cause the frequency to go down some for the third string, and the rest of these don't quite touch. This is the 1959. Now this top thickness on this 59 is about 2.5 millimeters, maybe just a little bit more. So that's quite thick for a Conde pattern that I've seen on most Conde guitars. Now we go over to a 1965 Conde style. It's still built by Faustino. The style is not the apprentice style, but the actual Faustino style Conde, or the Sobrinos de Domingo Esteso. So now we go back over. Oh, one thing. On this right here, we see that the 65 fan brace here on the bass side is longer past the bridge. We'll go back over to the 59 and see that the fan brace is just right at the end of the bridge, which is quite a bit shorter. I would say almost about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little more. So we go back over now to the 68 Conde, which has a little wider bout. I think almost the same size lower bout as the Reyes guitar. Whoops, that was almost a catastrophe, but not quite. Also, let's go down to this bass fan brace again and notice that unlike the 59 pattern, you'll see that the fan brace is longer than the bridge. Where the 59 is right here, we have this 68 longer. Also, you'll see this here should normally be about right there, so it has been shortened. On the bottom stiffener has been shortened some, most likely to improve the bass sound. And okay, now this is originally a 660 centimeter plane scale. I'm going to actually put a 655 millimeter plane scale on this. I'm going to shorten the guitar box to this green line to where it will fit the 655 millimeter scale perfectly, from going from the green line down here to the 19th fret. Okay, that's it for the first installment of this tutorial. and we'll go, I'll have to start making the guitar, and then we'll start, that's going to take some while, and then we'll go and start making the top, and then we'll do some things to the top that should be of interest, and I'll try to keep that straight, and let's make it an indicator of possibly where my fine-tuning is going to go with this pattern. Okay, for now. This is the top, and I've already routed out the placement for the rosette. As you can see, any router can do this. I don't actually start, well, let me put it this way. I don't actually knife cut the line. What I do is I use a reverse drill bit, just a reverse spiral bit, and it keeps the wood from breaking or chattering. And then what I do is I go with this rounded piece here, and then I'll go and I'll clean up the edges like that, clean the inside edges like this, and get all the little pieces, whatever extra wood pieces there are. Then what I do is I'll line the rosette up like this, and then put it into the place. And there you have a good fit for the rosette. Now when I go to glue the rosette in, what I do is I'll swell the rosette with hot water around this area, trying to avoid the middle seam, of course. I'll put hot water on this, I'll swell it out under, after I've glued it and placed it in, and swell it. And then what it will do is the rosette itself will expand out to meet the edges real tight. Then I take a piece like this. I'll use a little wax paper over it, between this and the wood, and then I'll place this down, place it down like that. Now this will go on another board, and I'll clamp it with 6 clamps, 3 on either side, to hold it, hold the rosette in tight while it's expanded with the hot water. Okay? Now what I do when the rosette is good and expanded with the hot water, I'll clean it up with towels. I'll clean everything up with towel and get it as dry as possible. Whoops. Before I put this on. Once this is on and clamped down, then I clamp it overnight. Then I take it out the next day, and it's all tightly into the groove, and everything is working good. And then I clean it up maybe with a little scraper if it's necessary. Normally it's necessary to clean a little bit with the scraper. So this is the next step. Okay, now these 6 come off here, 6 clamps, and then what I do is I lift this portion here off, and then I take the wax paper that was in between there, and I just peel it off like that. So essentially what we have now is mostly dry and set up rosette that's already been swelled out and tight in the pores. What I'll do is I'll leave these pieces here like this. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Like this. And I'm going to let it dry overnight now and harden up for tomorrow. And then tomorrow I'll take a little scraper and I'll scrape everything down to where it's even with the wood. It's just almost even right now. I'll take another one of these and put it right here just to hold it in place so it doesn't curl up during the evening or the night. They don't have to be real tight, just sort of snug, sort of just a little bit. Okay, now that'll sit overnight, these 3 here to hold it in place and flat. And then I'll let the fan over here will blow across it overnight and cause it to totally dry out. And then tomorrow morning I'll take the scraper to it and finish it out, and then we'll turn it over and start drawing the plan on the inside of it, inside the top. Okay. Just cleaning up the rosette and getting some of the dried glue off the edges of it before and then I'll let it dry again, and then I'll scrape it a little bit. Since the top is pretty close to the thickness it'll be on a finish out, I don't want to have to sand the glue off. I would rather just clean up the glue edges and then take it easy. With just removing the glue with a little water and a rag. This particular German rosette seems to bleed color a little bit more than the Japanese do. Japanese rosettes don't seem to bleed color as much as this one. But I like this particular German rosette that I got from Manuel. I think it's a little bit better design than the one that I got from Japan. And go around and I'll come over this on this side. Yeah, the color seems to have bled into the blue, which to me is, I don't know what kind of color the Germans are using, but it seems to bleed a little more than some of the other rosettes from Japan. Maybe it's not as color fast, but the idea is that after the rosette is in and sanded, it all looks neat. I mean, it's all straight and goes together in the design just fine. The rosette appears to be real tight in the glue line, very tight. That's the way I like it. That's the way. And you can see this color that's come off on the rag. But I have to hand it to the German rosette maker who did this. It's a very nicely put together design. I like to do this with a slant rather than straight on like this, so I don't tear any wood out of the center. And it kind of, when I do it at an angle like this right here, it sort of slices the wood rather than pulls at it. So everybody's got their own technique, but whatever works for you. Okay. Oops. All I'm doing is just centering this. Just taking scraps right now to brace the sound hole brace to where it goes in straight. Okay. This just scrap wood here, clamped across to hold the sound hole brace steady to where all I have to do is put some glue here and then put it on like that, and it's held in position, and then I put a little glue block and then I clamp it down, and that's 3 clamps here, 3 clamps here, and then I just let it dry for a day, and that's basically it. And so on to the next level after we finish this. Okay. What I'm going to try and show is where I start with shaping the fan braces, and I'll start with this particular little small, it's a small thumb plane designed by Ibex or Ebex. I'll start by shaping the strut from its edges about 3 passes. And then I'll go to the other side, doing the same thing. Okay, now I'll go one more pass, 4, and then I'll start with 4 here. Alright, let's do 5. Alright, let's do another one right here. Okay, now I'll take this right here, and it's sort of pyramided in the middle, but it'll start shaping the strut down just a little bit. And it's also taking the top of the strut down. It's thinning out the height of the strut as well. Alright, this is slipping, so I want to place it back on. It's easier to glue these and hold them in place than to use a sticky tape, but for speed we'll do it like this for right now. Now this sort of gives a little bit of pyramid to the top, to the sides, and then I'll take this particular piece after it's pretty much leveled on the top, and with some of the pyramid still in, almost like a bullet shape, and then I'll take this one that I've glued in and round the top of the strut like this. Now I haven't completely gotten the strut down to where I want it on the level, but it's getting there because I'm using a little bit finer grade of sandpaper. It's good to start out with about 80 grit when you're taking the struts down like this with this, but this is right here, this is like 100 grit garnet. And I'll keep going until actually this point meets the top like this right here. It just goes flat on the top. But I'll have a rise at the bottom on the treble side, as I will have a rise at the bottom, a little more of a rise. And then I'll have a rise at the top. It'll be a little higher at the top end on the treble side and tapered down to the low end here. And we're going to follow the same regimen as we do with the Reyes design on that particular Reyes 2003 model that I've designed and published with the Guild of American Luthiers. So this, we're going to follow this, and we're going to follow a round design on the top instead of a pyramid with a sharp point in the middle, like the old Conde design. I have found that building an old 48 Barbero design like this with 5 struts across, it's a real firecracker. I mean, it has a lot of testosterone, and it's just really projects well. So I'm going to try that same fan brace shaping on this. The way this is the way it goes. I start with all the struts the same height. going across to glue them in. Then I take this and round or pyramid off as much as I can with the edges without going too far on the pyramid. Then I take this and I take it down, like this. I take it down until the wood is going to be about the same height on this one as this one here. So you'll have these two right here the same height from top to bottom. This fan brace will be a little bit higher and thicker in height, and this brace here will be thinner, a little bit thinner toward the sound hole and a little bit thicker at the end here. Again, we're following the ideal of a Reyes design as far as how we're going to try and treat the top tension and also the articulation for the right and left hand playing technique. We want something that plays pretty well flat and low and fairly stiff, but with some give in the treble end right here. We'll have some give, and also note that this strut is not the length of the other struts. It comes down a little bit lower from the harmonic bar going across, which will be this right here. And as you can see, this strut here is not touching the harmonic bar like the others are getting very, very close. Now, I haven't put the scallop on yet, but the end scallop is not going to be quite as long as the old Conde design. It's going to be a little bit shorter. So we'll see how this reacts when the top is together and we string it up and play it, of course. So this is the way we're going to treat the struts, with a roundness rather than an actual pyramid on any of these struts. They're all going to be rounded on the surface, completely, or I should say a half round. They're not going to be pyramided. And again, we're going to be following the actual design of the Reyes, but with a different pattern. And we're going to see how that works. And then, of course, we'll treat these stiffeners pretty much the same way. When I get through with the fan struts, we'll take this we'll take these stiffeners and more or less apply the same technique. Only these stiffeners are going to be thinner than these fan braces. And then we'll put the little inserts in there to protect, bring the top together. Okay, that's it for first thing. I wanted to explain on how I get the bridge caul to glue the bridge. I use this little caul, Conde, bass side, treble side. This is a 68 Conde style. And what I do is I place the caul inside like this, right where it's supposed to go, and butt it up against this brace so I know exactly where the caul is going to be placed. So this butted against any type of brace from the harmonic bar here that butts up against the caul will pretty much. And then what I do is I go inside, take the caul right here, and then tape the caul over here. So essentially, when I use, let's see, when I use any type of clamp going through the sound hole here in the call, it'll push the call this way, you know, but it'll be braced with some type of little stopper to where I don't have to glue something inside, or actually I don't have to use pins, you know, driven from the bridge to the inside of the call to hold everything in place. I can just do it like this with a little tape. Okay, this is done after the guitar is together and playing, you know, before it's played, excuse me. So this right here comes off and is not used. This isn't used really until after the guitar is already put together and I go to glue the bridge on the first time. So this goes on the side for a while. Okay, I'd like to explain the glue space, but I can use a little more cedar than the spruce. Okay, these two stiffeners right here, I cross over the line with one stiffener to sort of hold the line together, but there is a scallop going this way. But you'll notice this right here goes across that line up and down the vertical, so it supports the line as well. In other words, if the stiffeners were just glued to the line, that leaves the line open to possible damage or opening up later. This way, it supports it going across the line this way. And you have your scallop. Okay, these braces here are almost half the height of, let's say, these braces on the fan struts. So I'd like to explain what I'm doing with the fan struts right now. What I'm doing with the bass side is, again, I'm using this rounded piece and I'm rounding the heads rather than pyramiding. Okay, it's going thinner toward the sound hole on the bass end. The reason for that is that by going a little thinner toward the sound hole, this will actually drop the bass end of the sound off into the guitar a little more. You give it a little what is determining a lower bass, or maybe a more full bass, but it keeps it here with a little higher structure. It keeps it here to be a little stiffer sounding, so you'll get a stiff but lower bass going toward the sound hole. This controls the fifth string. This is a little higher because what I'm trying to do is I'm going, first of all, equal height between here and here, but just a little higher strut. Now this softens the effect of the fifth string a little bit to where it won't be so gangoso. This strut controls mainly the fourth string. These two struts control the fourth string to some degree. So I'm going the same height from here all the way down to here, but a little thinner than this strut that controls the fifth string. This opens up the sound a little more, as well as this one, but controlled these three struts here the same height, or not the same height, but actually these two are the same height, the fourth string, to some degree. So I'm going the same height from here all the way down to here, but a little thinner than this strut that controls the fifth string. This opens up the sound a little more, as well as this one, but controlled these three struts here the same height, or not the same height, but actually these two of the same height, open up the sound of the bass, or just the general character of the guitar. It opens it up just a little bit more. This controls the fifth string to be a little softer effect, not so loud. The higher the strut, the lower the volume. Generally, the lower the strut here, generally the more open and a little higher volume, or a little bit higher frequency right in here. Okay, now remember, these struts here are the same height from top to bottom. This is a little higher, but the same height from top to bottom. This is higher here, but lower to bring out more bass, but keep it stiff, like a good flamenco guitar. Not boomy, but just a real stiff, but lower or more deep bass. Going over here, this controls the third string. The third string normally is strident in some guitars, but what we do to control that is we drop the third string off into the box tone-wise by having it stiff here a little higher, and then going down pretty drastically, going down and then shortening, making a longer scallop and shortening also right there. And this causes the third string to drop off into the box a little bit and blend better with the second and first string. Second string, we have it dropping off a little bit. This is a little lower here and a little higher here. Same as the third, but not quite as low as the third. All right. This enables the second string to drop off a little bit and cause more snap. Not so much bouncing up and down, but snap, side to side like that. This causes a good a stiff action, but not so much bounce like a classical guitar. All right, the first string here is between this and this sixth string, I give it a little bit longer scallop, and then I start here thin and then go up a little higher here at near the sound hole. This is to cause a little snap in the first string by having a little longer scallop right here, and it causes a little higher frequency to get some singing sensation in the first string. Now, the singing sensation is important to most guitars, classical and flamenco. It doesn't mean that guitars need to have a long sustain, but this guitar itself, let's go back to the 2003 Reyes model. That model has long sustain. You can do about 22, 24 counts of soleares before the sustain completely dies out in the bass, especially. But the decay of the notes, although not instantaneous, is usually very quick. It's just that the sustain is there. It's just that there's a lingering sensation of dimensional sound that comes out of it, which I like very much. So this is characteristically the way I'm going to adjust this pattern. Although I'll keep the Conde pattern the same design, I'm changing the struts just a little bit. The Conde stiffeners here are normally about half the height of these. So this is where we're staying with this here as stiffener. But with these, this is where I'm making modifications. And this is something that's very important to this tutorial to find out if it's really going to work or not. I'm staying on the harmonic bar here, I'm staying pretty much the same as the old Conde pattern. And this essentially This is essentially the same as the 68 Conde style, and also here, where it is, yeah, here it is. This will go up here at about the same size, you know, and I'll cut it down after I glue it across. They're going in and I'm gluing them totally flat across. The harmonic bars will go from one end to the other completely flat. So the top will be completely flat, and I'll round the top behind the bridge. I will round the top right around to this point of having it a little higher here on the sides, and then tapering the sides about maybe just a little more than a millimeter around to this point here, and then just sort of averaging out the rest of the guitar in kind of a flat mode, you know, from here to here. And then this will taper up to about maybe a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a millimeter or so, right here at the top. But from the sound hole to the bottom edge of the top, it'll be completely flat. Then, when I get ready to use a bridge on the top will have just a little bombato, just a little roundness. And what that will do is, although the top is flat in front of the bridge itself will pull the top just very, very slight, you know, to give it a little slight dome here in the bridge, but everything else characteristically is completely free of any dome. You know, from the top to the bottom is totally straight. So the natural age of the guitar with a little bombato on the bridge will actually pull the top round behind the bridge area just a little bit. And this is perfectly normal for a good flamenco guitar to be this way. You know, flat in front of the bridge and a little little roundness here behind the bridge. Okay, that's it for now. Alright, this information page is basically going to show you how I do the gluing on of the bridge and the top with this. This is what I use for a clamp. I'll go through the sound hole here and clamp to this piece here to you know, secure the fingerboard along with other things up the neck. But this right here is what I use to center the bridge, where I'm going to you know, just tape it with just a couple of pieces of tape. And then as the clamp comes through the sound hole here and goes on this, I use 3 clamps, one right here and one in the center. So when they pull, when they're clamping to this call here, it pulls this way, and it's supported by these not to go any further than that. So what I do is, just when I get through with clamping the bridge, then I take these off. Then I just reach in and, you know, take the bridge off here and just work it through the sound hole. Now, on the bottom of the bridge that goes next to the top, I have a little bit of a curve to it. This fits the curve. This fits the curve of the bridge. Just should be perfectly like this. And then when the bridge is glued on, of course, I take the clamps out. Put this over here, and then over here, what I do is I just take the tape off here, and then lift it out and work and take it through the sound hole here. See how that works. And clamp it right here, and it holds down the fingerboard. So this is the clamping procedure that I use to do the bridge, and then after a while to do the fingerboard. You know, with this, this little jig or clamping jig that I use just to go over there. and it fits just like this, and then it comes back out. Okay, thank you. This is just a slight overview of the top that's completed before it's installed on the guitar. This little brace here I took from the 2003 Reyes. Sort of gives it a little extra support here. This soundhole brace is a little wider than the original Conde, but about the same thickness. And I used a piece of Western red cedar I just had here in the shop already, so I used that instead of spruce. Also, these little pieces of cedar here, I had them, and I decided to use a little bit bigger piece of cedar for the top's middle seam support. Also, I took this right here and overlapped the middle seam, which is here, just for a little extra support on the middle seam. I've chosen to do all of these struts with a round top instead of a pyramid shape, sort of emulating a 1948 Barbero that I built many years ago. The roundness of the struts doesn't seem to interfere with the sound and projection of guitars that I've built, so I want to try this with a round type instead of a regular, just a pyramid style with a sharp point in the middle. Also, I'm taking these struts, thin, high, high, thin, high, thin, 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 medium thin, a little high, a little higher than that, thin at the top here, and a little high here. Now this is coming from the 2003 Reyes copy that I looked at on the plan that I have, and I'm going to try that on these struts here to see if that's going to make any kind of difference. But I'm staying with the 1968 Conde pattern. I'm not changing the Conde pattern at all. They're all in the same place with the fan struts and the stiffeners on the bottom. Everything is placed like the 1968 Conde. Now, the tuning of the top on the Conde was about F on the 4th string. So what I'm going to do is find what the tuning is here by just singing to the struts. Okay, what I got out of it the other day was about a G to an F sharp to an F, which is so subtle that the top is not responding heavily to any one particular key. Now this is good because it will give a little more even intonation, and you know, it won't have any particular note that's strident in the top. So this will be good for an even sound. So we'll see where this goes, but about G, F sharp, F is about where it is right now on the tuning, but it's so subtle I can hardly even distinguish the difference, and that is a good thing. So we'll see what the top sounds like when we finish and install it to the guitar and everything is ready to play. I'm going to sign off for now until I get ready to have the guitar all completed and playing in a playing condition, and then I'll explain it further about the top function and everything, and whether I have to sand the top some more to provide a little more flex. Let's sign off for now. Thank you. This is a neck that Manuel Adelide sent to me, and I'm going to use this for this Conde tutorial. It has the carbon inserts to keep the neck from bending too much with age, and this is the head slot that he cut out for me with my particular design on the head. Coming back down, these little things that you're looking at now, this keeps the neck, you know, at the correct angle, you know, that you know, up and down, and it aligns itself with the bottom block. And I have just these two little blocks here. And this, of course, tightens it up or loosens, however. And it's just a fairly simple way to do this. Now, I put the top on right side up so I can see what I'm doing on the different angles that I want to do. When I come down to the little bottom block there, I will lift it up a little, and this bottom block will have a little bit of extra wood placed on top of it, and then it will be tapered down to around this point across from the bridge, and then all the rest of the guitar top will be pretty much the same, with the harmonic bar being flat going across the top. Now, the lining that I'm going to use is just basically bent like this, and I'll taper it off on one side, and then I will glue to the top side. I will glue this about a 1/4 inch piece here on top like that to make a two-part laminate. This stiffens the lining quite a bit and allows, I think, a little bit brighter sound. Okay, I had to redo the end block. The end block is now Spanish cedar. I'd used a piece of spruce, but the grain of the wood, when I went to adjust it, it just split kind of funny. So anyway, I have gone ahead and put a piece of Spanish cedar for the end block, and that's the way it stays. This is a good end block, not like the last spruce one I put in. I don't know if it's old age that makes me have to redo stuff, or it's just that's part of the game anyway. After 53 years, you'd think I'd know better. Anyway, that's I just finished doing that. You can see the glue here is still a little white, but it's set up and strong at this point. You know, it's set. So I'll go over to the neck that I've done. You know, that I had. Excuse me, I didn't do this. Manuel Adelide did this. I smoothed it up a little bit on the heel, right here, and on the. And I went ahead, since I had the heel disconnected from the sides, the neck, I went ahead and took it down to where it'll fit the sides better with the particular guitar model that I'm building, which is the Conde. This is another one that Manuel sent. as you can see, the rough cut that they do has to be smoothed out, but he's done everything else. And then you can see this is a little bit higher, or a little bit thicker on the heel work, you know, than it is, say, on this one right here. This one here is a little bit thinner, as you can see, compared to this heel assembly here. It's just had to be cut down some. But the idea of using this one is that he had already cut my head design for me, and all I had to do was just kind of smooth it out. All I had to do was smooth it out and sand it and perfect it just a little bit. But on the next heel that he sent, he left it blank, so I can cut my own head design, whichever head design I choose to use at the time. And as you can see here, his carbon filament, or whatever he uses here, is a little bit thinner than the first one that he sent to me. So I don't know what that's going to prove. We'll just have to use both of them in time and just see what happens. See the difference here? Okay. All right, everything's going pretty good, and I'm pleased with the guitar so far, the way it's going. And I'll switch back around here to the top. The top essentially is already done, and it's ready to join to the sides and neck. Once I get the neck back in the sides, I'll go ahead and put the top on right side up. As again, I've learned how to do that. Just put the top on right side up instead of upside down on a solera, because I like to create some angles in the top the way I want it to pulsate and you know, improve top tension, what have you, so on. So anyway, this is just about ready. I'll let the bottom block go ahead and cure out the rest of the day, and then tomorrow I'll assemble the neck right here, and then I'll put the lining on and shape that and what I need to do, and then I'll put the top on. So we're going pretty quick right at this point. Thank you. Okay, now what we're doing here is we're lifting the top at the very bottom just a little bit, and we're tapering down just a little right around toward the edge of where the bridge is going to be. And it meets the taper, it tapers down to the actual edge of the guitar right here, and then it follows around all the way to the intersection of where the neck goes into the top, or the top goes into the neck. Anyway, it's a little rough right now, but essentially that's the way it goes. It lifts the neck is lifted up a little bit, and I'll show you. I'll show you how it looks with the ruler. You'll see there's quite a bit of gap here in the top, and there's a gap here, and you can see how the neck is up like this and slanted down toward the fingerboard, you know, where the sound hole is. Now what we've got here, right here, is a pretty large gap. That's because this right here at the very bottom has been lifted up about 1 millimeter or 2. So that's what happens with that. Now if I put a smaller straight edge here, you'll see there's hardly any gap at all, just minuscule. There's really nothing. And if I put the ruler here, you'll see that the neck goes straight into the rosette area, and you'll have what I would call just a straight fingerboard. There won't be any taper on the board. The board is tapered, or the neck actually provides the taper for the fingerboard at this angle here. Now if I were to put it here and here, you would see very little gap in this area here. You'd see very little gap at all. And essentially what it does, it goes straight from the sound hole this way flat, and then it goes straight to the sound hole flat this way with no tapering on the board. This essentially has a little bit of taper down where this is straight across. There's no taper here on the harmonic bar, and there's no taper here, and they're really in front of the fingerboard. They're excuse me, I don't know, but he uses a factory method, so I'm probably going to take a little dowel and fill these 2 holes here. They won't come out on the bottom, so there's no problem there, but in any case, if you go from here down to here again, you get quite a bit of lift right here. But if you go where the front of the bridge is, you'll get less lift right here. It's just, you know, that's the way it is. And of course, if you go all the way back, right there, you're going to drop off to where it's just not very much. You're going to just hit that lip just a little bit. It's not going to be too high. It's just going to, you're just going to hit that lip right there on the sound hole on the bottom, and to where, and when you go this way, of course, then you have, you know, essentially you have a flat fingerboard going to the sound hole, and then it just barely hits that lip there. Just barely. Okay, thank you. This is generally the way I sign them, except I added the 1968 Conde style modification. Then I come on, then I usually use a rubber stamp things on the inside of the guitar. And add my little motto, blessed is he who walks with God. And then I finish off the insides of, you know, with just a couple of wash coats of shellac. Just sort of helps with the waterproofing, you know, for high humidity climates, and also for dry climates, if the guitar dries out, it doesn't release humidity too fast and cause cracking. So that's another good reason that I go ahead and just, wash coat the inside. And I'll do the same with the back. This is standard Manuel Adelaide neck assembly, and how the sides go into the sides of the heel, and then come up. And of course, this right here is my own head design that actually a couple of other builders in the world use, I think, unless they've gotten their own head designs right now. It may be that they're still using this style. And also, if you look real closely here, you'll notice that I have a little extra spruce adding to the height of the end block. Here, that's, of course, we want to heighten the top a little bit at the end block, and then taper it down around about right here, and it goes, well, it actually goes just right across from where the bridge is going to be glued to the top. And this is, in other words, right around here is where the taper is to the end block. It tapers down maybe, say a couple of millimeters higher right here, and then it tapers down right at about this here. And then it flattens out and goes with the sides until it reaches, let's say the waist. And then from the waist all the way down to the heel, it's tapered down, let's say from this point to the heel is tapered about 1/8 of an inch. This gives the back sort of just a little bit of bombado, or a little bit of horizon from the back all the way down to the heel. And then of course it's rounded a little bit. It's rounded, say, a little bit from here all the way to here. Get a little round, and then you have a little like this. Just a little round like this. Just a little roundness here. So that constitutes the back. And this is just about ready to go for the back. I still have to clean up the taper and everything on the sides, and make sure everything is equal on this side to the other side. So I'm just about ready to put the back on, and then I can start cleaning up the shop. And once I get the shop cleaned up, then I can go ahead and start putting the binding purfling on the guitar. And at that point, I put the bridge on, then I put the fingerboard on and string it up, and we'll see what it sounds like. So that could take me a few weeks, just depending on how much time I've got to work on this project. But we'll try and speed it up as much as possible. Now you see this right here. See this strut right here, I've got a little bit longer scallop. But on the strut that manages the 6th string, I've got a little shorter scallop to stiffen the 6th string. But I also am tapering it in height down toward the sound hole. So this should give some stiffness here to the 6th string, but it won't crash the 6th string sound into the box. But what it does is it causes the 6th string to develop a deeper feel, but it keeps its stiffness here, so you don't get a boomy sound, like this. You get sort of a deeper but harder sound. Anyway, I'm keeping these up here pretty short on the scallop, except for the 3rd string right here. I've got a little longer scallop here, and it's not quite to the harmonic bar either. So that's to cause the 3rd string to drop off a little into the box and sort of create a little bit of a vowel tone. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. I hope I'm explaining most of it, but you see this third string strut, it's got a little longer scallop here, where this has a little shorter scallop here, and this has a little longer scallop here for the 1st string, and it's tapered, say, higher here and then lower here, and then just a little bit longer scallop. So this should give the 1st string some singing quality. But who knows what this is going to sound like. I'm going to have to get it together, and then I guess I can talk about it then. Thank you. Okay, the sides are already prepared to receive the back. This is the back that I have braced already. I've just glued the braces on. These little pieces of wood here just kind of keep the back bend in a sort of with a little horizon. The sticks on the either end of the back. And then I put a weight. As you can see, just weighted down here. So the back is ready to have the braces formed, get everything ready. Then I normally put right here, I normally will put the label right here, just kind of put the label in there before I put the back on. I'm not too good at just putting a label through the sound hole, so normally what I'll do is just put the label on before I install the back. These braces will be shaved down considerably, and they'll be sort of pyramided from the bottom up to the top, thinner at the top side, and then we'll scallop on the outside edge here on all of the bracing. before I fit it to the sides. Then I'll put a couple of wash coats of shellac, generally thinned out about 11:1 with alcohol. I'll go ahead and just finish the inside of the back just with a couple of wash coats. That keeps the dryness or the humidity from entering too fast into the wood, and also for the wood on a dry day from drying out too fast. That can cause some cracking. So this is what I do with the back, and this is where the back is at right now. All I have is this to go, then the back will be installed, and I'll come back again and show the back on, you know, as it will be installed on the top here. Just another little once over on the struts. This is the treble side. And this, of course, is the bass side. And there we have it. Thank you. It's more stable, right? Treble side. This is with 180 grit. It's very fine sandpaper. It's not real coarse. What I'm doing is trying to bring a certain equilibrium up with the string to where the string is it has a little more color to it, and then also it affects the top's equilibrium and articulation of the string as well. Do a little more on the bass side. I could do a little more, but I'm going to leave it right now until I get the frets in, and then I'll start adjusting more after I start playing it with the frets installed. Okay. I have most of the back already filled in, but it's a rough fill. Then I'll have to go and do the sides. I've got a little filler and fill on the sides. The neck is the color that I'm looking for. I used a slight bit of potassium dichromate and water, and then stained the wood, which potassium dichromate, it chemically reacts to the Spanish cedar and comes up with a color, and then I just I load shellac over the stain with the wood that's been chemically treated to produce this color. So this is basically where it's at right now, and I'll be working on it some more before I do the top. This is the actual wood color under the bridge with a stain sprayed on the top. I'll lock it in with a couple of clear coats, and then I'll French polish over the surface. It'll turn a little darker when the actual French polish is completed. It'll have some darkness to it. But this is essentially the color that's going on the top itself.